The guys debated heavily, but ultimately decided that on it, draining all their resources in an absolute zero to an absolute zero. Thinking they got a good deal, they took off, and within days, the rest of the galaxy uh, was alerted to their ship. And even and until the military got involved and caught up to them. Then they basically spent about 2 hours talking and chatting up until the engineers returned to the new project with a look of annoyance and amazement on their faces. It turns out that this too was fake. But the level of detail was astonishing, because not only the ship was made to look like the real pulsar, but even the instrument and machine on the inside were imitating the real one to such an amazing degree that it took the most experienced engineers, the ones who worked on the actual pulsar project itself, this long to figure out it's not real. The guys were beyond furious. They got scammed on a galactical level. Perhaps I shouldn't use that reference too much. But anyway, they were more than happy to turn off any other info on the guy who sold them this fake. So the MU project has set off again, but not before Shigo ordered the boys' ship to be resupplied with essentials and giving a parting kiss to Kish. Old habits die hard or tease, you decide. Ichigo's crew embarked on all embarked on the fleet and entered space, high orbit, and then went through the wormhole, which was kept open. Only after they exited the very spot they left from, and did she order the wormhole be collapsed, starting from their end. And this is the key, because a collapsing wormhole can be detected. If Nyayo or worse, Bequinta detected it, they would see a collapsing wormhole starting from a spot far behind them, leading to a spot even further away from them. This would imply that if someone was following them, they had changed course to something more important for some reason. This did, however, meant that they were a few hours behind Yael, who did an additional. I mean, they were already, almost a day behind, but now they're a few hours even further behind. But Yael did not let on her speed. She was going full throttle still, like a shark smelling blood in the water. She was hell bent on catching her. Too cringy? Oh, yeah. Anyway, Bequinta had been hopping from star system to star system until she was out of the galaxy, heading to Nyao's home galaxy, as well as Andromeda. This really puzzled both of them. Was Bequinta just trying to lose them in any way, or she could, or was there a strategy behind all of this? After weeks in pursuit, they all entered the galaxy of Andromeda. Until now, the course had been more or less straight to space, but now she was uh, banking toward one side. They were still on the outskirts of the galaxy, so this was more puzzling, especially if you knew what this was used for mostly. By this point, Ishigo has caught up to Nyayo and decided to establish communication between the two ships. It's decided that the risk of not having an established communication plan would be far more detrimental than being detected. Besides, between to re-enter another galaxy, which is already heavily wanted, and despite having other options, and at this point she seemed to have zeroed in a large solar system under the outer edges. She was pressing Nyayo for info as to what the hell could be on a use of her out here. Nyayo being enemies enemies with Ishigo was a bit reluctant to help, but eventually she decided that she too needs to be more open. The conversation as follows: Nyayo, I don't freaking know. The whole place is just used as a galactical junkyard, trash among with failed experiments simply dumped here. Ishigo, well, is any of it any use? Nyayo, how the hell should I know? We don't know what she's planning. She could be trying to hide. That seems unlikely now. Ishigo, for fuck's sakes, what is here? Now, oh my god, where do I start? Spaceship parts, chemicals, engine presses, entire demolished buildings, scrap of everything, nuclear waste, weapons, old food, port. Son of a bitch. Ishigo, what portal? Nyayo kind of spilled the beans, but realized it didn't really make a difference. Ishiko has followed her. She would see this piece of technology too. Thus, she continued with it after a heavy sigh. Well, yes, portal. We have developed a portal powerful enough to travel between super clusters of galaxies. And this very experiment is located in this solar system. She went on to explain that the portal was a planet-wide effort that took 10 years to construct. Well, not the portal itself, that only took a quarter of that, but the rest of the planet took the rest of the planet to power it. Power plants all over the planet were built simultaneously to power the portal. Power plants the power output was several times more than Earth puts out now. And when they flicked the switch on to turn the portal on, it worked for about 1.5 seconds before collapsing. But this was followed by a cheer of galactical proportions. Think of the moon landing, yeah, that scale, but galactical. This entire project was never meant to be a working portal, as it was just a proof of concept. They just wanted to see if the theory worked, and it worked to a T. After power plants, after this, the power plants were all disassembled, but the portal was left in place and covered up. Why? Well, it took a decade of galactical effort to make the damn thing burp. So if anyone wanted to use it, their efforts would be detected before anything comes of it. As to why not store the portal itself in the center of the galaxy, where the capital is located, well, doing so gives any invader reason to attack it. Except now there was a newcomer to the game, in form of technology. I've mentioned that the Polestar starship was missing, and it still is. As far as so far, they found two fake ones, but the real one is, well, like I said, missing. I was also mentioned the Polestar starship engines were manufactured in a solar system dedicated for the very purpose of that. But I haven't clarified as to why. You see, the engine is made up of seven very special magnets that are made into a sphere. These magnets have to be assembled by robots, which are controlled from a distance of at least 3 light years away, because the amount of energy stored in them would rival that of a hypernova. That's exactly what happens if there's any malfunction during manufacturing. Now, once these seven magnets are assembled, they're actually fine. They're extremely stable, and the colossal amount of energy is retained within it. It's fine. And now you see the issue. And a penny drop for both of them, both Nyayo and Ishigo. But Quinta must have the final pulsar, the actual pulsar, and she's heading toward a power so powerful she could travel to another supercluster or galaxy, at which point they have no hope of catching her anymore. The two galaxies had inadvertently created the perfect escape plan for the most hated criminal in this section of the universe. Yeah. And then, when they fully realized it, all bets were off, especially since Bequinda just landed on the planet in question. Nyayo ordered the ship to give it all it's got, and they even turned off their cloaking and shield generators for extra speed and entered the planet. Uh, and entered the planet at a ludicrous velocity. As they cleared the low clouds, they saw that indeed the Polestar starship was there and was being hooked up to the portal. The turret on the starship, on the Pulsar starship, fired straight at them and caused them to lose power and crash right onto the planet's surface, and crash right onto the planet's surface, not far from the portal. But without hesitation, all of the ships, everybody on the ship just jumped off and began just guns blazing. Srigo loaded up whatever he could and sprayed Bequinta's forces with his 57 mil. Anything to slow their efforts, anything to hinder them. Meanwhile, Ishigo had sent out a call for immediate reinforcement from anyone and everyone who can. Nyayo did this too prior to entering the planet, and the combined efforts not only got the majority of the military moving, but even pissed off civilians who were heading to catch Bequinta. Oh, she knew it. She was cornered. This was a win-lose situation, and there was no other way out. There's no third option here. The pulsar could, in fact, create a very powerful shield to protect her forces or even the planet. Luckily, no one on Bequinta's crew knew how to operate that piece of equipment, which is good for Nyayo, as their efforts were barely enough to halt them from escaping. And just when it seemed that Nyayo's crew was winning, the portal opened. Bequinta and Nyayo froze, looked at the portal, looked at each other, and the Quinta began sprinting toward the portal. Nyayo began shooting at her, but the rounds were simply not able to stop her. And at a last-ditch effort, she switched her magazine, her pistol, to her special ammunition and began shooting at the main cable conduit powering the portal and chipping away at it. Just as Bequinta reached the portal surface, she fired the last round in the magazine, and the pistol which damaged the cable just enough to drop the power below the critical minimal limit and shutting the portal down immediately. Instead of Bequinta going through the portal, she fell on her face. But Nyayo threw her pistol aside and pinned her to the ground, switching her power arm to strength mode and loading the hatred into Bequinta's face only a few minutes later when her crew pulled her off. Reinforcements have arrived and took Bequinta into custody. But not before Nyayo, with a smile on her face, managed to utter a phrase to her as in Bequinta in a language not many knew, and only the two of them understood the context. It is a phrase Bequinta said to her when Nyayo got kidnapped, as a way to mock her. And this was Nyayo's revenge. Bequinta is secured and led away, looking a bit amused to say the least. Ishigo has arrived. The forces from both galaxies swarm the planet in orbit. Ishigo and the new project look at Nyayo and Bertruda's order. They both end up laughing in relief and exchanging a few words, shaking hands and agreeing to end all conflict. After about an hour, Michigan said goodbyes. They felt it best not to stand around such sensitive tech like this, like the portal, for a very long time, as they were long-time enemies and recent friends, and it may ruffle some feathers between them. But Nyayo realized that her only ship was crashed and in ruins, so she began calling after Ishigo for a ride, who just kept on walking away, assuring everything is fine. But Nyayo was getting a little annoyed. Conversation as follows: Nyayo, no, really, my ship is done for. I just need a ride out of the nearby system. Ishigo, I'm sure you can figure it out. Nyayo, no, seriously, I need a ride. Ishigo, it was nice dueling with you. She waved, got on her ship, and took off, dropping a supply crate as they went. Nyayo, are you freaking kidding me? Meanwhile, Sergo was already digging through the scrap, being a mechanic he is, and cheering, at which Nyayo could only sigh, pinch the bridge of her nose, and say, I hate all of you. I somehow still respect you. The end. That's it. And this is the end of the stories that I had them. I had no further stories beyond this. I do hope you enjoyed it. I do hope it made sense. Once again, I do sincerely apologize for being so freaking late. I should have called it off instead of leaving you hanging. But I really appreciate when you stuck it out. And I hope, and I do understand if you left my channel. I completely do. As for my channels, looking back, it's a huge cringy mess. I'm going to need a new identity. Maybe do more voice recordings like this, but I make no promises yet. I make no promises. Well, thank you, and have a great day.